2020. So from New Hampshire to Acadia National Park.
Nice.
Yeah, I love Vermont seems great, yeah. But Connecticut is not.
Connecticut, it's, each state is different.
Yeah, I mean, it's got some great, like surprisingly rural areas, but New Haven, great. Great to see it in person. Yeah, live. I'm still made it home.
Cool. I've been thinking about it.
Was that?
That's what I've been thinking about.
I know it's been sort of
Let's have
quiet.
coffee. Or whatever. Let's get together.
Yeah.
I'm here.
And
I'm
I
around.
was-
I'm open all day.
Yeah.
Let's chat after.
So,
What's that?
Let's chat after.
Went to school in New York State,
yeah, so you had the whole northern, yeah.
but then from there, I just moved to Boston, lived there a summer. Then moved to Aspen in the fall.
What brought you out here? Steve? Change.
Yeah, and somebody said, if you like the winter, you see your summer.
You don't miss the eastern ski slopes?
Pardon me?
You don't miss the eastern ski slopes?
The ice.
Yeah. You ever make it back to New England or?
I did. My mom was still in upstate New York. She passed away a few years ago. I don't go back.
Yeah.
But usually when I did go back, after about 2 weeks, I was ready.
Yeah.
Come back.
Yeah.
Come back.
Yeah, that was every time I came back to visit my family in Denver for, long weekends and for Thanksgiving, I'd be like, wow, Denver's great. I love it here. And then I would have to go back to Connecticut for another few months.
Yeah, well, sometimes you need to get away to really appreciate it.
Yeah, I would say it had that effect for me.
This is a mythical sky.
Hey, good to see you in person.
Glad to be back in Colorado.
I am. I'm very glad. I like it.
Of course. I think.
Sunshine, it's mountains, it's snow. It's not just like 45-degree rain. And, I don't know. Yeah, New Haven was good. It wasn't, I mean, it's fine, but it's not great. It's just
That's the
nothing.
East Coast.
Yeah,
Keep my hand
kind of
on.
dumpy. a little bit. Glad you're back. Yeah, me too. Thank you. Good to see you all. Good to be here.
I'm gonna
Oh,
start just
we've got
maybe.
a full house. Except for Marcia. But I hear you have an update. on that.
I'm using.
Oh, you do?
Video.
Essentially, that narrative you two guys put together, that's the future of every grant we ever write. That was just outstanding.
Thanks. Yeah.
Mostly, it was really good.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope it will get us much more money in the future.
I did not. I put in what he suggested, except I didn't change the period of significance.
Right, yeah, I trusted your judgment to
And I
actually put it.
also did not put in the budget that Lori just said.
Okay, yeah, we need to.
It's a pretty, kind of a useless budget.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about whether I should put that in there.
Well, you gotta have something.
Yeah, I have, well, yeah, maybe we can talk about.
Unfortunately, we're just in the new fiscal year. So, and we had before.
Right, so that should go not in the 3 years of audited financial records, but in the organization's current year budget.
Yeah, well, it shows what we have.
Yeah, and
It only said we had $3,000 in grants last year, which is inaccurate.
yeah, and I put in the ones that I sent you.
When they did it.
Because but we got several other things over the summer.
Yeah, I don't know, it was.
Okay, it is 4:01. We will call to order the January 9th meeting of the Leadville Historic Preservation Commission. We have roll call.
Alternate Flanagan.
Here.
Alternate Bailey.
Here,
Commissioner Whittington.
Here,
Commissioner Spillman.
Here.
Commissioner Littlequist.
Here.
Commissioner Edwards.
Here.
Commissioner Martin is absent. Seven of four.
Alright. Any revisions, any suggested revisions to the agenda?
Yes. I'm sorry, staff would like to remove, 3A from the agenda. We got a last minute notice from Ann Schneider, who would not be able to make it tonight, but she has been able to reschedule it for January 23rd. So we will reschedule, but we need to remove that from the agenda.
3A removed. May I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Do you want to add any new thing about an update on Marcia, or should I? just-
I thought maybe you could do that in housekeeping,
Okay,
just because I'd already sent out the packet. Do you think we need to put that on the agenda or anything?
all right, I move that we approve the amended agenda.
I second that.
The agenda is approved. Approval of minutes for October 24th.
I believe that the word marshal, as in fire marshal, is misspelled in one place in that. I'm not sure what page that's on.
I can do a word search for that. Is that the only revision?
Yeah.
Correction?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, and may we have a motion to approve the October 24th meeting minutes?
I think two can have.
Go ahead.
Julia, you and I, at the very end of that 2024 meeting, and I passed my laptop to make sure I captured all the direction from the HVC regarding the code for, the demolition exemptions criteria. And I just want to make sure that we capture that correctly in the minutes, because that, we can talk about this again in 2 weeks from now, but I had,
The very last one.
yes, page 3 of your packet, and it's right, a few sentences right before the other grant options. I have. As Representative Shawn discussed, how to address procedure, what is the governing authority, redundant review, second opinion needed, emergency orders need a time limit. Fire department created a form, and we need a demolition permit.
The only thing that I don't see there would be a second, and maybe we did cover that. No, sorry, redundant review, but a second opinion is needed, and then the time limit on a working order.
Right,
I think that is what we discussed.
emergency orders need a time limit. Okay, I made some notes, but I lost them. So I'll make sure the minutes correctly capture that.
No, I agree, I think that sounds good.
Okay,
Hey, anyone else have anything they'd like to add to those 3 points?
we'll discuss, I have that cap just summarizing bullet point memo in for our next meeting. It's actually in this packet, on your schedule, but we can, so we'll have time to look at that again.
No, that's a good review, thank you. And a motion to approve the October 24th minutes?
I will motion to approve the October 24th minutes with the edited.
Thank you. Reese, and Marshall. And a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. And approval of the December 12th minutes?
We didn't vote on the last motion.
Yeah, okay, all in favor.
Thank you. You're right. You're right. All in favor of approving the October 24th?
All right,
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes approved and December 12th minutes.
I will motion to approve the December 12th minutes.
And a second?
I'll second that.
All approved, is all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And it passes. All right, moving on to public comment, items not on the agenda, so anyone on Zoom. Very good. Greg, did you have anything at all? Thank you. Moving on to housekeeping items.
And I'm gonna go ahead and let Steve go first, since he visited with Marcia this weekend, and he can kind of give us an update.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go into details because it probably would get me in trouble with HIPAA, but, she really very much wants to move back to Leadville. Right now, the problem is finding any kind of home care. She's going to be having trouble getting around for a while. But I filled her in on what had been happening with the HPC. We spent about an hour there, and her husband was there also. And we had a nice conversation, but she's pretty frustrated with being in the care facilities that she's been in, really wants out. So she didn't say anything about her plans for the HPC, but since she plans to be back here eventually, I think that she wants to stay on.
Sounds like it. Thank you for taking the time to go visit.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, that's it, yeah.
Okay, the CLG news for January is in your packet, and then there's a 2024 webinar schedule for CLGs that I included in the packet. I don't remember ever letting you guys know that the Manhattan was awarded their state historical fund grant. I think it was on the same spreadsheet, but I couldn't see past HBC, so sorry. But I did, send off the initial documents for, Bill Comkowich's grant, $50,000 grant, and for our HBC $131,000 grant. So we should get a grant agreement here in the next probably 2 to 3 weeks that we can sign and get going on that. So, also a Saving Places reminder for you guys. I believe Stuart and Rebecca and Steve Whittington are the ones that I have already registered. Did you guys get your confirmations for everything, and everything was correct and got you in the right sessions? Anyone else that would like me to, register you, please let me know, soon, because I need to register myself. If you want to register yourself, go ahead and do that. Just remember, if I called your name and said you were on the scholarship thing, that we're gonna need your receipt for payment so that we can get reimbursed by History Colorado. And we'll also need to go to at least three sessions and write a little summary. We'll have at a meeting we have after that in February, we'll have where everyone can kind of give what they got from that, but you kind of need to write up something for our scholarship. So I just wanted to remind everyone of that. That should be all. No, that's it, because it's on the agenda. So I think that's it for me, unless you want to tell me now, that you're wanting me to register you, or, yes, you want me to, okay. So I need to make note of that, and I can. Otherwise, you can register yourself and just make sure to save the information.
Very good. Anyone else have anything under housekeeping items?
I was in Salida today, and they have a big sign up on the side of a building down there that shows, I think, the historic structures, but it also on a map of the city, but it also mentions that they are the largest historic district in the state. So
Fantastic.
they're seem to be pretty proud of that.
Really? I did not know that. Now I want to check and make sure they really. That's being so negative, but that is really exciting. I did not know that. But ours is one of the larger ones as well. That's why it comes.
I think what's cool is the sign, it's just making
Right.
people aware. Is it coming in from the north, or is it coming up from the south? Maybe it's on both ends. Where was that signage?
I don't know the names of the streets there, but if you come in if you get off 285 and come in the regular way and just keep winding around, you end up going right into the center of town.
Right.
And on one of the buildings on the right, there's this big sign with a bunch of hearts on
The
it.
hospital right there then. As you're coming into
Yeah,
City
it's,
center.
you pass the hospital, and then you go another mile or so.
Okay, so right as you're getting into the.
Yeah, it's near the main intersection in town.
Yes.
Very cool.
Yeah. I know where we can put them.
Yeah, right.
All right, moving to updates, Champion Mine Restoration, I suppose that's cheap.
Yeah, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but we were contacted by an individual who's representing a property owner who owns a historic mining structure, Champion Mine. This is a boarding house and kitchen house that was associated with Champion Mine. It sounds like this is in Lake County off of Independence Pass. And this individual was asking about if the property owner wants to restore the property, and they're asking about funding opportunities. So I communicated to this individual, what I know about funding opportunities, and so I have a list here, but, I referred him to History Colorado, State Historical Fund, both for grants and, preservation tax credits, and also CPI, Colorado Preservation. So basically I put this on the agenda because I, told this individual that I would come to the Historic Preservation Commission, mention this, that this property owner is looking to restore, this building or this structure, and ask the HPC if they were aware of any additional funding, volunteer opportunities, et cetera. And so there's a 2-page description in your packet about the structure.
This is going up Independence Pass.
Yes, I don't know the exact location.
No, it's up to after, all the way up after the road. Very small.
So
What is out there?
Okay. Twin Lakes has an organization there that does volunteer days to, do restoration and cleanup annually for
Okay.
several of the historic buildings and hotels there on Independence Path, and that would probably be something that we could reach out to the Twin Lakes organization for volunteer.
Okay.
Because they're already doing 2 or 3 of those right now.
Is this, like friends of?
Like friends of
Friends of Twin Lakes, and they put together volunteer days, which seem to be very well attended.
So maybe we should get with Kelly Sweeney, you think?
Kelly Sweeney, the Schweigers, yeah,
Okay.
any of those folks.
Okay.
Andy down at the Twin Lakes Inn.
Okay.
But it's a good organization, and they provide volunteer cleanup for a couple of the guest lodges that are farther up the path there.
Okay, there's the bird flies, I thought it was closer in the past, but I don't know about access, so I think this guy's like a Jeeper, and he
Yeah.
drives a Jeep off road, that's how I got to this, so then maybe it actually is, like the mayor said, accessible from half the road.
Well, but that comes in right on the other side of the same,
Okay.
you get there pretty easily.
Okay,
It's not very far away as to Clovis.
okay, friends of Twin Lakes volunteer days,
Might be something to approach.
okay,
Should.
thank you for that. If you have any other, if anything else comes to mind, feel free to email the radar, we'll get, back to this individual, but thanks for letting me put this on the agenda.
I'm sure Scott or Steve, did you have any other places you should reach out to or refer to?
Historical, if you work with them, it reduces the costs of reconstruction significantly. But it complicates things a little bit. But they're located in the Denver area. They've done restorations all over the country. They worked with me on the restoration of the Matchless Mine.
Okay.
Yeah, and possibly the National Trust for Historic Preservation. We got a grant from them. I don't know what exactly their criteria are in terms of types of organizations and structures, but that might be a source of a little bit of money.
Yes, good, thank you.
Very good. It says no insubstantial COAs for the month of December.
No,
I had a question about that, though. Can people apply for the COA after the fact, after they've already done their?
obviously, that's not encouraged. But if we receive a complaint and, or someone becomes aware, they want to, for the good faith effort to come into compliance, then yes, we would do that. So, but if we receive a complaint and we went out to, someone's property, contact them and say, hey, you just conducted this work, it requires a permit. then as long as, you know, we're not, as long as we think that there's a possibility that that work can be approved, then we would encourage them to submit we're required to submit a COA application.
Well, my question was, because we're giving out these awards, we won't do that unless they submitted a COA, right? Isn't that the kind of the way it works?
So, yeah, once the work was required to have a COA.
So this, I was thinking of this one particular one, they're all done. I mean, we painted it and did a good job. So if I were to go to them and say, if you apply for a COA after the fact, and then it comes through and it gets approved, then they would be eligible for an award.
But in all fairness, if they weren't required to do a COA at the time they did the work, then I would think that we should consider them for an award, even though they didn't do a COA, because if it wasn't required at the time they started the work, then we shouldn't penalize them. Is that?
I would agree with Lori. August fifth is the key date this year, is when the ordinance that we all worked on became effective. And so the work, like an exterior alteration, for example, if that was completed before that date, it didn't require a COA.
Before August fifth?
Before August fifth, an exterior alteration, it did not require a COA. But if they completed work, which didn't require a COA, if they did a good job, I think that would be fine to give them an award. You know, this would be the only year we'd probably find ourselves in that situation.
Right.
Right.
Well, that was that picture that I brought whenever I was last here, but yeah, it's nice work.
And I have that email, so I could look at the date, because they were pretty much finished by the time you sent that picture,
Yes,
right?
I think they were pretty much, yeah.
I'll
So,
have to look at the dates.
okay, all right, thanks.
Yeah, I pulled that.
On that same note, Amy Morrison was trying to reach you.
Yeah, I mean,
Two things, insubstantial, they wanted paint. But also, they're looking to demolish a shed and it is in the historical unit. But I told her that one would probably require a COA and she was trying to reach out to you.
yeah, I've got her, I'm working on a response to her.
Great. Good. All right, and moving on to the walking tour and setting up a potential first committee date.
Right, and I've heard from pretty much everyone, Tuesdays is a really good day for most people, and Adam Descharnes happened to be at City Hall today, and we talked briefly about that as well. Tuesdays work really great for him. I think the question is, does anybody need that Tuesday to be earlier in the day? Because it would be great if we could do it like 3 o'clock on a regular HPC meeting day and go from there. I mean, that's kind of the gist of how it's playing out right now, Stuart, and
3 o'clock would work for me.
That would- okay.
At 3 o'clock.
Okay, then, let's schedule that for 3 o'clock, January 23rd. That work for Nancy, Stuart, Joey, and I'll get with Adam, and he was gonna reach out to someone else as well.
At 3?
Yes. Can you do 3, Nancy?
Yep.
And Stuart, are you available 3?
I'll figure out how to be.
Okay, well, if you need to Zoom, let me know. I wasn't planning on doing a Zoom because there was only like 4 or 5 of us, but I can.
I gotta be there in person.
Okay. Okay, so we're gonna say January 23rd at 3 PM will be our first walking tour meeting. To set up and kind of get our feet on the ground. Get
Mark, our advisor, brought up a very interesting idea that goes along with the walking tour. We've been looking at some different buildings around town and looking at some restoration things that we're doing. He had suggested maybe doing like a Doors of Leadville calendar, but that could play into that walking tour. And if we did some kind of an inexpensive calendar, that would be an interesting fundraising idea. It's a very good idea. And whether it be doors for windows, for facades or
Right.
whatever, it's a great idea and would tie right into that walking tour and potentially, you know, even just selling them on the counters at a few local shops into the visitors center. Maybe that will provide a way to pay for developing the walking tour. It's a great idea.
Great, good idea. We'll talk about that at our first meeting.
All right, 3A has been stricken. We will, and will be rescheduled. Ann's been out quite a bit lately, so that makes sense.
Yeah. It's been a lot going on.
And under continued and new business grants to fund the 25% match. For the state historical fund and Elkhorn.
Can I just say something real quick?
Mhm.
At the last meeting, Steve had asked me, about the money that was left over in the budget that we hadn't spent, had we spent it? I got another invoice from Metcalf and put that in to be paid, and it was paid from 2023 because we got the invoice in 2023. So that took pretty much, even though technically we're gonna get reimbursed for that, we have the money in the account and we paid the invoice. So I would say we pretty much wiped out what was in our budget at that time. Now come January, and then we send our first set of reimbursements back, but I just wanted you to know that it got spent. If that makes sense, because it was, but you
Does
know,
that-
that end was in 2023, so.
And
it's
does
taken-
that reduce the amount we need to ask El Pomar for?
I don't think so, because we're still facing a 25% match on $131,000. So I don't think that, you know, we could not ask. I just don't think there's a dollar amount that I don't think we should ask out for maybe $50,000 or anything like that, but 25% of that big chunk. And then if you think about it, we did get the $8,000 where we needed that match on that other grant. We technically did get that $8,000, but between the $5,000 National Trust and the 3,000 from the tourism panel and the I'm sorry, I'm
Yeah,
getting all-
1,500.
1,500 from the community funds, but then we also got $10,000 from Climax money. So we're sitting good with, we definitely have our 8,000, and we even have some towards the, you know, what will be like chunks for the 25% of the 131.
Yeah,
I don't think that should change the dollar amount, but at least we didn't have to try to prepay an invoice that is difficult for the city to try to do without an invoice, so. But I don't know what that does for that.
Yeah.
Before we submit the proposal, I wanna look at the budget again,
mhm,
because
yeah,
I think, I don't know.
But
It sounds like maybe we might not need to ask for quite so much.
okay, also note in the budget that I sent you guys, you'll notice that the HPC has $8,700 instead of what we had last year, which was, I think, 5,000, and that had to do with the mayor transferring 2,700?
Or 37.
$3,700 into publications from his, you know, so we could do more mailed out. So we transferred some of that money in the 2024 budget to the HPC for that very reason.
You've had a
Nice.
busy month, thank you for remembering.
I know.
So exactly how much did we pay on the invoice?
I don't have that in front of
Can
me,
you-
5,000 something. That last invoice, the first invoice we paid was for 8,000 something. And then this last one that came at the very end of 2023 was for 5,000,
How much of that came from our budget? The-
2,000, did you get
Exactly.
2,000 left?
Exactly,
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I can check them, but it was, I think it was like 2,700,
okay.
2,300.
Yeah.
it was
Could you
fun.
send me,
From our budget,
could you send me,
like that exact amount?
yeah. Cause I just, I wanna make sure we've got the budget just right.
Okay, so I'll send you that last invoice that we just paid, and you.
Yeah, cause that'll affect, we can put those numbers in terms of, you know, what's coming from our budget or from the city of Leadville. The way I got the amount that we're asking for is basically just, if you look at the budget sheet, adding up how much our budget, the total project is going to cost, and then subtracting what we've got so far.
And we're,
so far.
okay.
Classic method.
Makes sense.
I was wondering if in you guys' head for this next grant, you were thinking that the first the first survey was funded technically by the CLG grant, but it wasn't 100%.
Yeah, and so.
So I was trying to figure out, because.
For some of these budget things, I've made it where the entire thing, 3 surveys and the historic context and all the surrounding stuff
That's why you're
are all
including what we've already,
one big
and
project.
what we've received.
Yeah, and so that's why then the certified local government grants and then it seemed to me that that made it easier than trying to figure out which of these other grants are going to that one
I
first survey.
agree. That's been driving me nuts.
And
trying
so,
to Put those dollars in the right.
because at least the way that I think we've been conceiving of it, we're trying to get sort of this first push of the first half of these surveys, all the priority surveys done. And so that, I've conceived of that as one project for the purposes of budget stuff
And
here.
the proposal to El Pomar is saying we need this money to finish off
Mhm.
everything we need. So we
Yeah,
wanna make sure that all the figures work out.
Yeah.
yeah,
Makes
And
sense.
this thing with the city might change things a little bit, might reduce the amount we need to ask for.
yeah, cause if the money we got can pay for the flyers, for example, we can, put in an item in terms of support, saying we already have support for the flyers. And then, yeah, reduce the amount that we're asking for by $3,000 or $4,000. And it should be that even if we don't get the full amount from them, we'll still hit our 25%. I haven't looked back to see exactly what that 25% number is, but we have a bit of a cushion there, given the other
Okay.
grants that we've gotten.
This just occurred to me, so, so it didn't happen this budgetary season. I think it's past time for the HPC to have its own separate budget. It would be within the city budget, but we have several of those, never mind. But nonetheless, it would be good for you to have a revenue line and an expense line. And therefore be able to see detail. Right now, you can keep track of the detail, but it doesn't show in our budget. So I think it would make perfect sense. It wouldn't affect the dollars, but it would just be.
Break it down.
On budget. And we, what was History Colorado asked us for a budget the other day? We don't have a budget.
Right.
It's just a one line item revenue, or one line item expense in the city hall budget. That may be something you need to request of the city, you being Lord.
It would justify our budget to the city, and it would give us more transparency all the way around.
Right, and it would certainly help with some of these applications, because we are just a board within the city that doesn't, like you said, it doesn't even show all of the grants that we've received. And that, so it's very confusing, and it's not a very clear picture of the HBC, so that.
We're dealing with so much more money, we're
Right.
actually, we're affecting so
Normally
much
don't.
more than shows up in the budget.
But you could show revenue, a series of revenue line items with different grants,
Mhm.
so it would clarify it. You can also show, revenue for vacuum. That's a whole different challenge.
It is.
I would say maybe talk to Crystal about that next week. You go to Lori first, then to Crystal. This is payroll week, so I wouldn't do that until next week.
No, that's a good idea, and then we would have been able to justify that it's not an issue just for grant
I'm
applications.
thinking that's good. That's a very good idea, thank you for thinking of that.
All right, anything else on grants today?
Thanks to everybody who sent in suggestions. I think we put them all in, the ones that were relevant.
Mhm.
And Kurt also, on a separate email, said, wow, very impressive, very comprehensive and well-written application.
It was a very.
So I don't think that you didn't have any comments to change anything, but it was very well-written. Very nice. When do we have to turn this in, and is that something that Scott and Steve and I can do now? 'Cause I know we went.
Well, if we wanted to be sure of getting reviewed, then we should have done it a week ago, but they don't have any specific deadlines. They suggest 8 weeks before the review. So we need to get it in this week if we can.
Okay.
And so I think the next thing I need to do tomorrow is really look at the budget and make sure that we've got it all straight.
And do you
This
have-
is not the annual budget, this is a budget for the proposal.
Okay, but
So, cause
this project
this thing where you paid the invoice with what was left of our money probably affects what we need to ask.
And how am I gonna find out what that dollar amount was at the end?
Yeah, I think you almost have it
Okay, do you have the invoice dollar amount, that first $8,000, and all you need is the
I
second?
don't think that doesn't matter. It's where it was paid from. So
What is paid
if,
for?
I think,
Yeah, cause that first one was technically CLG money that covered it, right?
That's true, yeah.
And then this
Well,
one,
You
is
say
this
that
one,
in head because you have to get reimbursed later for
Yeah.
it, but yeah, yeah,
and then
and
is
is it-
this one technically going to be reimbursed
Yes.
by CLG? money?
yes.
So does that?
It's not, I mean, just because it was our money in that account and paid at the time, it is also reimbursed by sales.
so all the money's gonna come back to us?
Yes, on both
So
of those invoices.
Okay,
So
well,
then-
then I didn't
would
understand.
that still be in the pot of that CLG support that we have and not?
Exactly,
But then if we did get some money, extra money for the publications or mailers, then that we could then add in as sort of support on here and subtract.
So that would be
asking.
3,700.
right.
Okay,
So you don't need the invoice, you don't think, since it's a reimbursable, because I know it would be reimbursed
I guess
on our
think
first
that's-
pay, our first,
I misunderstood
okay.
what was going on, I guess, but
The 3,700 for publication, we
Has
can
it,
add to city.
And that
of
should show in that 2024 budget I sent you just today.
Alright,
So do you need the number?
We don't need the number of,
no, now I understand. It's
I don't know what I'm doing, you know?
sort of funny money.
yeah,
But, yeah, well, if we wanna say the 3,700 for publications is coming out of 2024 budget, then that needs to be worked into this.
Right.
Unless we just wanna hold on to that and ask Alpamar for the whole amount.
You know, I don't think and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the mayor's intent in giving us that $3,700 for publications was necessarily for all of this and surveys. It's for us to do the code, you know, and
yeah,
just engage people a little more. So I don't know that it has to go in
yeah,
because it's not specifically for the projects that are in the budget. That are-
All right, then that gives us,
mhm,
then we'll ask a little more than we absolutely need, and then if they cut us,
yeah,
That's
we
always.
can always draw.
Right, then we're still okay.
Yeah.
Basically.
well, okay, so, yeah, let me,
Yeah, you double check
Run
the
through
budget
tomorrow.
numbers.
So what do you
Right.
need from me? Anything at this moment, or do you wanna tell me tomorrow?
No, now that I understand what's
Okay.
going on, I think
Okay,
we're probably okay, but never hurts to double check,
I agree.
because they will.
And then, right, we'll triple check, and then we'll get it out this week. It sounds like we're close enough to get it out this week to submit.
Yeah.
Yeah, if everyone, do we need to vote on submitting or anything, or? It,
I don't think so.
We all-
It's
Oh,
not,
yeah.
it's not a bad
Everyone
idea
can-
just to call it's not a bad idea just to call it though.
just to do it
Everyone
in favor.
in favor of submitting the Oklahoma grant this week?
I,
Anyone opposed? Thank you.
Okay, that's all about it, so.
All right, grants wrapped up. What about 2023 awards?
I just put down a possible award that you guys have given me, in a meeting in September and then in the last meeting we had. I also included on that page the 2022 recognitions and the 2023 recognitions. Oh my God, I think I actually included the full slideshow, didn't I?
mhm,
I'm sorry. The list would have done just fine. But I know Nancy had asked about, you know, because it's hard to remember who got awards and the more years go by, we're gonna remember. So I did want to let you guys know who all have received an award. And then the suggested recognitions that you guys have, but you need to solidify that.
And on the 311, 313 Harrison, I did do a final CO inspection relative to the COA, the certificate of appropriateness. And just so everyone is aware, the only modification from from what was constructed compared to the approved plans on that building that I found final inspection was on the rear of the building. There was and I can pull the plan and everything, but on the, there was a bathroom, essentially a bathroom addition, where there was a small bump out, which was technically an addition for the bathrooms. Originally, on the original plans, that was proposed as brick. So it would have been a new brick, and then, so basically it was in between two existing buildings, so the existing rear primary facade of the main structure, if you will, on the rear, and then also like an existing, it's like a old CMU building, not non-historic building. So they proposed, or they installed metal paneling on that addition. So I looked up the code sections, and long story short, basically my interpretation that was acceptable, because what it actually does is you basically is a new addition on the rear between two existing buildings, so it helps distinguish the existing historic primary structure and the existing non-historic secondary structure, if you will. It distinguishes old from new.
Which goes by the National Park Service guidelines.
Yes, and again, this is on the rear, not on the primary facade, but still just trying to hold them to what they said they were going to do. So it didn't require a plan revision or anything like that for that CO, and that was the only change. I inspected everything else pretty thoroughly.
So their front window sills were the appropriate height.
Yes,
Everything else came back the way we had suggested.
yes.
That's fantastic.
Great,
Yeah.
thanks, Jason.
The only thing that I kind of noticed that was odd, it didn't really show on the plans, it wasn't really clear on the plans. I forget, I think it'd be a balustrade, I think that would be the term, but essentially it would be, it's a column that was on one, essentially there's two entrances there. One of the entrances, if you were to walk into that recessed entryway and you were to stick your hands out, there's a corner. One of those had like an old metal post that had like a detail on the top that kind of flared out. And then the other one didn't. And so I was because that wasn't really documented in the COA application or the existing plans or anything. And I asked the contractor about it, and he said, yeah, there wasn't one there. So I took his word for that, but it wasn't documented in any of the photos that I could find with COA application. So there's not symmetry there. If you stand there and look at that hard enough, you'll notice that there's one metal post that's existing that is historic, that has this little iron, like welded detail, and then there's on the other side, there's not anything. So that was the only thing I could find. It was like a discrepancy on the front and side.
Thanks for being so thorough.
Yeah, sure. I think that's a fantastic restoration.
Is that one that can be added to the 2023 recognitions, or is that something that should move forward? Well, it's 2024 now.
Right, and it's on there for this, we were just waiting for the CO, and once Jacob told me he issued the CO, it goes on that.
Very good. Anyone have any suggestions on anything that's not included on the current list?
I think Kurt, whatever your address was on that one that I haven't checked, I don't know the address on that off the top of my head.
I'll get that to you, I'm not sure either. It's on 6th Street.
I think we'd have to do some more digging to find out when that was done and all that.
It would seem to be a good faith effort, even if it was an after the fact, COA that was administratively approved. It would be worth recognizing that kind of work.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and one thing we've talked about in the past, is doing not just awards for work with certificates of appropriateness, but just for sort of basic, not basic maintenance and upkeep, but like especially good maintenance and upkeep, as to build goodwill in the community and also to encourage that sort of things that are
Right.
short of
Absolutely.
COA. And so I wondered whether this is the year when we want to start doing that, or whether we want to still.
And to me, I don't know anything, I don't remember much about the Annab House, except that it got put on the list, but I don't think that was one, and I know the Pink Church, we put that on there, and that, you know, that wasn't the COA process because it wasn't required at the time, but that's another, but I do think this would be a good year to start that, especially to encourage people to get the COAs, even if they're administratively approved, because it's like materials and they're just doing, you know, I think that might be a really good time to do that. If you have any to suggest,
Yeah.
Is that something where we would just suggest among ourselves? Is it something we'd want to solicit the public's input on? What do you think?
I think soliciting the public would be good if we could manage to do that either through just like maybe just a newspaper ad or it wouldn't necessarily need to be like live thing.
In the
And
newspaper
then just
or?
like,
Yeah.
word of mouth.
Just email, the staff at City Hall, put
Mhm.
an email
Yeah.
address for your nomination.
Yeah, if people could self-nominate or nominate if, they live down the street from some house they admire.
We had considered running an ad in April for Historic Preservation Month. And maybe we could have just a very small blurb in there, running people to the Historic Preservation website, where you could have a nomination form for yourself or for others for cleanup and maintenance work.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, it would be an inexpensive way to
Yeah.
drive traffic to the website, but also get those solicitations.
Yeah.
Okay.
So are you suggesting delaying naming the awardees until after April?
Not necessarily, but it would drive nominations and awardees for the following year. All of these things seem to happen on an annual basis and.
I thought we wanted to announce the awards in April.
Right, but in marketing that, we could then solicit ongoing. So you have something on our website that is a nomination either for somebody's work that they've done for themselves or work that they've witnessed that could then be awarded in the future. So, the following April.
So basically you're saying go with what our possible nominations are now for the April awards and then April-ish and even after promote more for the following year?
And
Because
have it open
unless
all
there
year.
are non-COAs that you guys wanna nominate and submit for this April's awards, then we wouldn't really be incorporating this until the next following year.
And right now, the only one we have ready that's not done through COA that's already on the list would be Kurt's, which he can provide us pretty quickly. But maybe ongoing for 2025, we can solicit year round for that kind of work and just have that for the following April's awards. I don't know how much traction we could get to get nominations done to be able to award people for this year.
I
It's April's coming up pretty quick.
But yeah, if we already have in mind that we want to get them for next year, it'll be easier to sort of build that into.
Build
our
that in and
announcements
work
and
on
everything.
our inclusion of the community as well. So add it to the website and then focus on that for April for moving forward for future awards. Does that make sense? If you have any other ideas there?
No, it's fine. I think we shouldn't try to do it for this April. We've got a list and
Okay.
we don't wanna let the year pass without making any announcement.
Very good. And
Just one thing, just one thing, on the 308, 301 East 8th Street, the property owner reached out to me, asking how he could, pursue, state and federal, landmark designation. Historic registered designation. So I referred him to the, History Colorado for that, and I let him know that the Golden Borough had recently gone through that process.
I was gonna say, is there any reason why we wouldn't want to refer people to the Lundins just as experts?
No, I said, I kind of just briefly mentioned those resources and said, no, I can certainly have a phone call talking through more of this. I just haven't heard back. Just so you know, that's
That's the Pink Church.
the Pink Church is, yes.
There is another resource too. Bill Comkowicz was 616 Harrison. He he submitted his letter of interest, if you will, regarding that designation, and they approved he's on to the next steps, in other words. So we'll have a second designation similar to the Golden Borough. And so he's currently going through that process, so,
Fantastic.
yeah.
Very good.
I'm assuming you'll be seeing his COAs relatively soon. I don't know.
That guy's got a lot going on, starts on the outside,
Yeah.
so I'm not holding my breath, I know it's gonna
Yeah.
take a while for him
Right.
to get things going, and the interior work is, whole different stories, so.
And it's underway.
Yeah.
2024 goals, what do we want to cover for 2024 goals tonight?
Do we want to move the 2023 to another meeting, or are these the ones you guys have set on, or do we wanna wait at least till the next meeting so we can see Kurt's? Or how do you wanna, not to just not let you move on, but either we make a decision on these now, or we wait until a couple of weeks and I can put in something from the other one that Kurt had. I don't know anything about 200 West Sixth having a COA or exactly how that got on the list, I don't have any memory of that.
I'd like to see Kurt's.
Okay, so we'll move this to the next and make a decision at our next meeting. Is that fair? Because that would give us time to get this work, okay?
Kurt, can you get us that information by the next meeting or before the next meeting?
What did you?
And I think I have it, Kurt. You sent me the address and a picture of the house,
Yeah.
right?
Is that all you need, or?
Yeah, that's all I need, and I'll find that email if you don't.
I'll send it to you again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Probably should send it again. Okay, next, so we'll do this again on January 23rd meeting. So,
Before we adjourn, I'm gonna make one announcement regarding COA. So we do have an active COA for 109 Oak Street for proposed demolition. So that they have submitted an application. It's not technically complete yet, so I always like to let the commissions know when we have an active application, so you can be careful about ex parte contact. So if you are approached by anyone, and about 109 Oak Street demolition, just be aware that that's an active application, and you have to disclose in the public hearing any kind of communication that you have outside of the council, outside of the commission meeting. You can talk with staff directly, but can't talk amongst yourselves or with the public without disclosing that information.
Is that the big barn?
That's the
Yes.
big boarding house. That's the two-story boarding
Is that
house.
what it used to be?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
This
a
came up
hotel
before.
and board.
we toured the inside of it probably 5 years ago.
Fantastic.
Okay, we'll not talk anymore about this then, right?
It's the last standing two-story boarding house left on the east side of the.
That's all we should discuss.
That's all you
That's all we
say.
should discuss tonight. So just make sure everyone's aware, that's an active
If it
application.
does come up, please mind who you're around, don't, staff will be who you're.
And there was one other thing I saw in Salida today that's kind of disturbing. If you're aware of the layout of downtown Salida, there's a big tavern on the corner right across from the city park. This is the Victoria Tavern and Hotel, built in the mid-1800s, and I believe there's a historic plaque on the front. It's been approved for demolition by the Historic Preservation Commission. That, it's a very big two-story brick building.
Yeah, that's-
Very, very obvious too. But there was this sign on the door this morning that said approved for demolition. And then there was something that said that the HPC in Salida had approved it.
Wow.
Really surprising to me.
I think you like your history, so that is.
One last thing tonight before we wrap up our meeting, the 2023 goals, do we want to carry those goals over to our 2024 goals? Are there any things that you would change or add or delete off of that list of 4 items? The first being more diversity in our outreach, the bilingual survey. The second thing, the historic revitalization grants for prominent buildings on Harrison Avenue. Obviously be more visible. Greg's helped us with the ability to do our own newsletters there. Our activities during the Historic Preservation Month in April. Getting our logo and our stickers and our yard signs out with our awards that we'll be doing in April. Let's see, what else? And then the historic home tour, which we will have our first committee meeting coming up in 2 weeks. Is there anything somebody would like to add to that list, or?
I think number two, we should probably mention, because we've been talking about workshops that are going to be focused on tax credits. Maybe add historic revitalization grants and tax credits.
That's an excellent idea. Would we want to do an open house during one of our regularly scheduled meetings for historic tax credits?
We had that as goal 3 in our 2024 suggested goals.
This is true.
Yeah.
And I know my format is not very well, but my whole point of this was to say, these were your new suggested 2024 goals, and these were your old 2023 goals, with the discussion that we had at our last meeting, when most of them said, most of these goals for 2023, you said keep for 2024.
Correct.
So I guess I'm asking, do you want all 7 of these goals? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because the first 3 are the new ones that you guys suggested, and the bottom 4 are the ones that we have for 2023, but you suggested keeping on 2024.
No, you're right. I forgot that we added that last time, Jason. You're correct. That would be wonderful to have that done in April, just as it's written out here.
And Joey, I vaguely remember item 3 on the 2024 suggested goals. And we talked about, we tried to do something that's a little more entertaining than tax credits. And I thought we discussed having just a workshop on how to,
Just on research.
how to figure out, how old your house is, who built it, just that kind of research.
Agreed, and we could use tax credits and grant applications as part of that. How do you go about that? You start with research. And I think that's how we got to that.
That'd probably be more palatable.
And
It
can
would,
we
it would
just-
bring more people to the table, for sure.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any ideas on, this is talking about an open house in April during Historic Preservation Month, during one of our regularly scheduled meetings. We're doing on how to research your historic property, what resources are available in town. Anyone have any comments, yea or nay, against that?
I love it.
Yeah.
Good.
And then we can spur out into how to apply for tax credits and what kind of grants might be available based on the research that you find in that kind of an environment. But you're right, it would generate more interest.
The other thought I had is for this summer historic tours, maybe we can make that a little more generic right now, because, we may be talking about a year-long tour that, downtown historic buildings as well as,
I can just
Should we
make that.
just change that over to the historic walking tours, historic walking tour development?
That's what I would suggest.
I would suggest that you have someone who's doing that in town now. Ron Peterson out of the Delaware, it's Roger Carter's daughter, in town. She's continued that. I don't know to what extent that might dovetail with what you.
And what's the name of her?
Her name is Roan, R-H-O-N-E. Peterson, P-E-T-E-R-S-O-N.
Yeah, you just passed this last year.
Right. Anyway, just.
No, certainly somebody we need to approach about developing those tours.
Yeah.
Because they've been doing that tour for several years now. Okay, so changing number 4 to historic walking tour development. Anything else, anybody?
I would just suggest that if we have historic walking tours and workshops and open houses, be more visible might be redundant. Thanks.
That is really good point.
You're absolutely right.
And one other suggestion is this, just that we could have an item that is, public education programs and then put historic walking tours and open houses and workshops underneath that sort of broader rubric.
So consolidate those 2 points. And,
Into public education.
Yeah, public education programs. Public outreach or, something like that.
and then to strike the 2023 goal number 3.
Okay.
No, you're absolutely right. We're kind of beating that horse pretty good. Anything else before we wrap up tonight, guys? All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn our meeting?
I move that we adjourn the January 9th, 2024 meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission.
And the second that. All right, we're adjourned for January 9th. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're adjourned at 4:56 on January 9th. Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Like a rank out.
You're on city council. I don't have any, I don't have any, we just